music business. I don't know what that involves. In fact, I haven't seen the results yet, but I've been told.
DJs love nothing more than discovering a forgotten classic. But in the mid-1980s, disc jockeys in 3 U.S. cities slipped a brand new Roy Orbison record onto the turntable, only to be shown the door before their shifts ended. One store manager in Dallas stocked the single and found his advertising contracts yanked the same week. The warning was unmistakable. Spin Orbison and you're out. Why would radio risk money and reputation just to keep one man quiet? Tonight, we trace the velvet dark road of Roy Orbison, from Dust Bowl obscurity to global idol, through searing tragedy, an alleged industry blacklist, and a comeback so bright it outshone the forces lined up against him. Stay to the end, because the note he leaves hanging in the air might change how you hear every love song that follows. Dust Bowl beginnings and the birth of an unearthly voice, Roy Kelton Orbison, arrived on April 23, 1936, in Vernon, Texas, during Psych, the tail end of the Great Depression. His father welded in the oil fields when there was work. His mother sketched roses on scrap paper when there wasn't. They moved from town to town, first Fort Worth for wartime factory jobs, then the wind-blown settlement of Wink. Roy would later call Wink dusty, greasy, and full of nothing I liked. Yet those barren streets carved the loneliness that made his songs glow. Everything changed on his 6th birthday, when his father placed a cheap guitar in his hands. While other kids kicked cans down Main, Roy stayed indoors learning Hank Williams runs and Lefty Frizzell yodels. At 10, a traveling medicine show rolled through town with a talent contest. Roy, skinny, pale, and unsure, sang Mountain Dew and tied a 15-year-old for first. Strangers, not family, applauded. The shy boy understood that music could let him be seen. Polio rumors swept Texas 2 years later, separating Roy from his parents and sending him to his grandmother's farm. Isolation only deepened his introspection. He hated his near-white hair enough to dye it black, convinced there was nothing memorable about him except a voice that felt too mournful for his own bones. Yet that very voice, unforced and trembling, on high notes, drew listeners like a beacon. By 15, he was fronting the Wink Westerners on local radio, dreaming bigger than the dusty water tower he painted each summer to make ends meet. His first band morphed into the Teen Kings, and in 1955, a raw cut of Ooby Dooby caught regional fire. Some credit Johnny Cash for sending the tape to Sun Records. Others say a record store owner rang Sam Phillips and played it over the phone. However it happened, Phillips signed the group, but the pairing was uneasy. Sun wanted another rockabilly shouter. Roy wanted to pour Slow Honey over Heartbreak. To stay on the roster, he climbed onto drive-in theater roofs between movies, gyrating like Elvis to chase applause because he had only one hit. Hope, hard work, and hunger. 3 chords that continued to echo long after the amplifiers cooled. But the shy Texan was about to rewire pop music with a song everyone else rejected, writing his own rules, Only the Lonely and the Ballad. Revolution by 1960. Roy had quit college and burned through his Sun Records contract. He offered a new ballad, Only the Lonely, first to Elvis, then to the Everly Brothers, both passed. Forced to record it himself, Roy and co-writer Joe Melson flipped every formula. Backup singers sat in the foreground, guitars whispered in the back, and those cathedral falsettos shot sky high, fragile yet towering. Men in pop usually sounded cocky. Roy sounded exposed, and audiences loved him for it. The single sailed into the top 5 worldwide, turning Heartbreak into something cinematic. Success finally let him record the songs that crowd no one else had dared attempt. Running Scared, Crying, and later, In Dreams. Verses dissolved into wordless bridges, choruses appeared once and vanished. Each track rose like a storm cloud and broke into sunlight with the closing high note. Engineers complained there was nowhere louder to press the needle when Roy leaned into the microphone. He didn't care about volume, he cared about emotion, and emotion doesn't need permission. Offstage, anxiety ruled him. During one tour, he misplaced his clear spectacles and sang in prescription sunglasses instead. The lenses hid trembling eyes, so he kept them. Black clothes followed, a visual cocoon. On stage, he hardly moved, like carved marble. George Harrison joked, But when the arena fell silent enough to catch his opening whisper, everyone belonged to him, yet even marble can crack. Fame was rising, fear was close behind, and the next tour would test which was stronger. Out-singing the Beatles, outrunning. His own doubt, the British press expected Roy to headline comfortably over 4 unknown lads from Liverpool in 1963. Instead, the Beatles exploded and promoters swapped the billing. Roy didn't protest. He walked out first, sang soft enough to make 8,000 teenagers hush, then rocketed into those impossible peaks. When he finished, chants of "Rooey, Rooey" thundered until Lennon and McCartney physically blocked him from re-entering. Their turn now. Harrison later confessed they dreaded following him. That same year, on a tour bus crawling through the Midlands, Roy jotted a riff while his co-writer Bill Dees tapped a rhythm on the seat. "Oh, Pretty Woman" blasted out months later, dethroned the Beatles from number 1 and sold 7 million copies. In Ireland, he became mythic, returning so often that police once shut down shows to keep fans from overrunning the stage. His persona, still mourning black hidden eyes, felt supernatural. Yet it wasn't artifice, it was armor. The world kept trying to peer inside the shell, and Roy kept turning pain into gold. But pain doesn't bargain, and it was waiting on a backcountry road outside Nashville. 2 crashes, 1 fire, and a silence that nearly killed the music. Roy married Claudette. Frady in 1957, 3 sons followed. Fame, though, fuels temptations. While Claudette nursed toddlers in Tennessee, Roy toured Europe, and fidelity cracked on both sides. In June 1966, the couple took their motorcycles out for a rare afternoon together. A truck darted through an intersection. Roy swerved. Claudette didn't. She died in his arms at 24. Friends say his voice turned to air, thin, present, barely speaking. He poured the morning into "Too Soon to Know," a record some stations refused to play because it felt too raw. 2 years. Later, after a show in Birmingham, staff pulled him aside. His Tennessee home had burned. 10-year-old Roy Duane and 6-year-old Anthony were gone. Only the youngest, Wesley, survived. Investigators believed aerosol spray ignited near a lighter, a child's accidental experiment. Roy flew home to nothing but an ash chimney. He sold the land to neighbor Johnny Cash, who kept a promise never to rebuild and instead planted an orchard, a living memorial visible from the highway even now. After that, the Marble Man withdrew. The MGM deal that looked brilliant on paper demanded 3 albums a year. Quality nosedived. On his 40th birthday, he played a vast arena in Cincinnati to a few hundred scattered seats. In 1977, a Hawaiian vacation ended in triple bypass surgery. 3 arteries blocked, doctors warning he'd been minutes from death. He lit another cigarette within weeks and booked another tour because he knew no other life. While he battled ghosts, pop radio moved on, replacing torch ballads with shiny synths, and, rumors say, with something more sinister than changing taste. Zati. Whispered Blacklist, when a gatekeeper locked the dial-ask veterans of 1980s FM programming, and some will still drop their voices before mentioning the name The Wolf. Industry gossip paints him as a consultant who promised ratings miracles to stations that followed his strict playlists. Orbison, the story goes, refused a handshake under the table promotion back in the pay-for-play 1960s. 2 decades later, when Roy tried to launch his Wild Hearts EP, The Wolf allegedly called program directors with a choice: pull the record or lose national advertisers. 3 DJs in Dallas, Phoenix, and Atlanta spun it anyway, and cleaned out their desks before the week ended. A Dallas area retailer told a trade paper he received threats of a regional boycott if he carried the EP. No documents ever surfaced. Station managers deny formal pressure. Record label memos vanished when companies merged. What remains are stray trade magazine notes, secondhand memories, and the curious silence that blanketed Roy's singles right until a rogue filmmaker cracked the spell. File it under rumor, but every mystery needs a villain, and the timing of Roy's vanishing act lines up too neatly for some insiders to dismiss. And then a dream sequence in a cult movie reframed that velvet voice as the sound of something dangerous and irresistible. Blue Velvet. Black and White Night. The voice breaks through the static director David Lynch hunted for music that felt like a candle floating in darkness, and latched on to In Dreams for his 1986 thriller Blue Velvet. Orbison never approved the license, and the first time he watched Dennis Hopper's unhinged villain lip-sync the lullaby, he stormed out of the theater. Weeks later, he watched again, alone, and started to understand. The song's purity cut deeper precisely because the scene was so twisted. He re-recorded the track with Lynch, and a new generation went searching for the man who could sing Nightmares sweetly. Momentum snowballed. On September 30th, 1987, Roy walked into Los Angeles' Coconut Grove Club in a sleek black suit, while cameras rolled on what became Black and White Night. Behind him, Springsteen, K.D. Lang, Elvis Costello, Tom Waits, Jackson Browne, the finest. Players in rock,